We all want to be happier, don't we? So today, a step-by-step approach to live a happy life. My next guest says happiness is a skill that we all need to work on, and he's sharing ways to make your everyday a little happier. We've got Scott Wilhite here. He's a filmmaker and author of the 7 Core Skills of Everyday Happiness. Thanks for being with us, Scott. Now let's start a little bit with that notion that happiness is a skill and something you have to work on. Why does that typically surprise people that you've seen?
Well, you know what, it surprised me because my story is I wasn't a happy person all the time. I'm a filmmaker by trade, and I lived for a decade really in this dark place where I thought I was this frustrated artist, and I was always so obsessed over everything I was missing in life, and was just, you know, I felt so stuck and trapped, and nothing that I did really mattered, and I could never change anything, and the harder I worked at it, the more frustrated I became. Well, anyway, I learned that happiness was a skill. I learned that there's science behind it. And once I learned that, then it changed everything for me, because suddenly there was something I could do about it. There was something I could change in my life. Does that make sense?
Yes, and so when you had to switch that mindset and think of it now as a skill, what did you have to do to fully kind of broach that and start on the journey of happiness as a skill?
Well, you know what? The first thing was understanding that it was a skill, that it was something internal. I used to look for it outside of me, that I would be happy, you know, when I got that new gig, or, you know, that next award, or the nicer car, the bigger house, and it was always just out of reach. And once I learned that it was within me, it's kind of like, you know, Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz, you know, when she had those ruby red slippers at the end, and she finds out that she had the power within her all along. It was changing that focus, and when you change that, when you find that out, it opens the whole world to you, you know, because now suddenly there's something you can do about it, and then once you're empowered, wow, you know, everything opens up to you.
And you list some things that we can do to empower ourselves to have that happiness as a skill mindset. What tops your list as a necessary thing we need to start doing in our lives?
You know, the best thing, the absolute best thing, and this comes at the top of all the research that comes from positive psychology, is gratitude. If you are, anyway, what they say is you can't be grateful and unhappy at the same time. So if you're not feeling really great, you can elevate your gratitude levels. And if you're feeling only okay, you can elevate your gratitude levels even more so that you experience more of that. But so yeah, if people want to experience happiness, what I recommend to them is a simple thing. If they will each day write down 3 fortunate things that happened to them, they will start to develop this pattern where they will look for and expect good things to happen. And as they do that, they will see it, and they will start to focus on the good things in life. You know, because, I mean, good and bad happens all the time, but it's so easy to focus on the negative, because when you're thinking negatively, you're thinking downhill. You know?
Now, in your book, you talk about relieving unnecessary suffering. How do you achieve that? That sounds like a daunting task.
Well, unnecessary suffering is an interesting thing. Years ago, I was filming in Mongolia. I was filming these doctors who were doing this amazing thing. They were restoring sight to the blind. Can you believe that? I mean, they were restoring sight to the blind. Well, as I get there, I find out it really wasn't amazing at all. All they were doing was helping people. They were removing cataracts from these people that had built up over years. And the people, they didn't know that they didn't have to be blind. You know, in our country, you get your cataracts removed like you go to the dentist, you know? Yeah. But there, they didn't know, and so they built up over their eyes for so many years. Well, that's what unnecessary suffering is. We have these mental cataracts that have built up over our minds and limited our thinking and clouded our vision, really. And so we need to do certain things so that we can get rid of that, and so we could live more abundantly and more fully. Does that make sense to you?
Oh, completely. And you also talk about how there's certain skills in life that happy people tend to have. What are those?
Absolutely. We talked a little bit about gratitude, and there's a lot of different ways to take your gratitude to new levels. Another really important one is to savor the now, to live in the now, to be present, to be in the moment, and not to be so future thinking. You know, we always run to what's next that we really never enjoy where we're at. And when you do that, when you savor it, and whenever you savor something, you know, you want to make that last. I always think of food,
yes,
you know, when I think of savoring. But if you can learn to savor a moment, then you can really enjoy that. You can enjoy being present, and you're not so worried. You know, fear comes from what's next and the anticipation of, you know, uncertainty. But when you're here, then there's peace, and you can enjoy that.
Now, what does smiling do for a person and their happiness? You talk about smiling first.
Yeah, because this surprised me too, because I always thought that smiling was something that comes after. You know, some great thing happens and you smile about it. Well, it turns out that you can actually self-start this. And there's a little hack that you can use, but you can take, and this is backed by science, but you can take a pen or a chopstick and put it in your mouth, clench your teeth, I guess.
And walk around all day like that? Is that
walk around the whole day like this. But what this does is it forces your face to smile correctly so that the edges of your mouth goes up, and it triggers your brain into thinking you're actually smiling. And what's interesting is it releases stuff in your mind, in your brain, that actually helps you feel happy. And so what it does is it starts it, and then if you will continue to, you know, focus on the right things, then you can start spiraling up. But you don't have to wait for outside influences to spark your happiness. You can do that yourself.
So there really is that mental, physical connection that makes a difference in happiness.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you can look at the U.S. Surgeon General talks about happiness. You know, you think you'd go around the country telling people to stop smoking and things like that. He's actually now prescribing happiness because there are all these biological benefits that come to us when we're happy, when we're genuinely happy, and express that.
All right, Scott, how can people get in touch with you, connect with you for more information?
At my website, which is encourage.life. It's the letter N, the word courage, and .life, which, you know, that's a different domain, but that's what we're about, enjoying the best of life.
Scott, we've enjoyed having you on the show, and takeaway here is just always remember to smile, right?